Hey, welcome back to No Hype Beer Reviews. Unless it's your first time, then welcome. Please consider subscribing. If you do, hit the notification bell, get all the updates. This is today's video. It is Sierra Nevada's Pale Ale, which I don't think I've ever reviewed. A beer I've had a lot, a beer I love. I remember, back in the day, like, back in the day, I won't put a date on it. You go to a bar, and man, if they had this, it was heaven because not a lot of choice back in the day. So definitely a fond beer for me because, early on craft beer days, hard to find a variety back then. And in this Yingling, that was about it that you'd see, somewhat regularly. And I've been drinking it ever since. I do think it's the best pale ale, period. Probably, just trying to kill some time since there's so much head. Probably the best brewery tour I've ever been on was Trogs, and this one was a very close second. And I think if I had done this tour in Chico first, I'd probably say that's my favorite, and Trogs is second. I think because those are easily the top two, and I just think because I did one first is why it's first, if that makes sense. Just like the perception of it. This one was broken up into three parts. The first part, where they kind of went over the history of the brewery, they actually gave you this beer, which was cool. And then you toured, the middle third was you toured the brewery, and the last third was just help yourself to the bar kind of a thing. All right, so I'll start talking about the beer. It's a nice amber caramel kind of orange color. You can see through it for sure. I also don't think I've ever used this glass. There's still about 2.5 fingers ahead. It's a bone white. It was, somewhat compact and then somewhat soapy, and still is. Definitely looks like a New England style, pale ale kind of color. What is the ABV on this? Is it 5 something? 5.6. And does it say? I'm sure there's a way to tell which brewery it was at. My guess is, since I'm East Coast, that it was at the Mills River one. Anyway, let's get to aroma. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like that, orange West Coasty citrus. You definitely get some pine in there. It is. It's like the quintessential pale ale. And I guess maybe I should say West Coast pale ale just to start differentiating some styles. But this takes me back for sure. It's got that bite to it, which I appreciate. And going back to that orange, some hops, some brewing processes, it can seem like straight actual real orange juice. This is very much that West Coast hoppy thing where it's well, the closest thing is orange. It doesn't quite go dank for me. A little bit of lemon. I get some of the malt coming through. It's more Cheerios than doughy for me. It smells fantastic. Let's get to the taste. Cheers. Oh, man. Speaking of that bite, man. But then, some sweetness does come back and kind of help. Because, you get that bitterness bite, a little bit dry. You get the pop of sweetness up front, but it pretty quickly gets the bitter, dry part of it. But then, and this doesn't always happen, you get a little bit of sweetness coming back. That sweetness, I'm going to stick with the Cheerio maltiness. A little bit of sweet corn as well. Like the aroma though, you get that West Coasty orange thing, some of that lemon zest. You get some nice pine. It's not the most sticky resin, but you do get a nice amount of pine. And I love the bitterness. And I've said that a lot lately in different beer reviews, mostly of New England style IPAs and double IPAs. And all of those definitely had bitterness. And then you drink a beer like this, and I'm glad I'm saying bitterness to those because this has that pale ale bitterness I want for the style. About perfect. I mean, it really is as perfect of a West Coast pale ale as you can have. A little bit crisp mouthfeel and all that. Yeah, the sweetness comes back. I mean, look how fast I guess I do have some in the can still. and like it's a long bitterness, even when the other stuff's happening. But it's like the base, it's like the foundation of the beer. That's what it is, foundation. And you still get like some peaks and valleys, ups and downs of other flavors coming and going, or like sticking around with different intensities. And that's true of the bitterness as well. But man, that foundation is built upon the bitterness. I know I'm using that word a lot, but like you have to with this beer. But enough sweetness that it's not like, overdoing on my palate. This isn't like back in the day, the IBU wars, where like who can make the most bitter beer. It's not that. It has that balance you want and expect from the style. Excuse me. I was just stoked to find a 6-pack that was relatively fresh. So I scooped that up because I want to do a review and then have some drinking ones for my wife. All right, it's giving me the hiccup. So minus 10 points for that on my scale that I don't actually have. I'm sure that sounds good on the mic. I think I'm going to wrap this up because I think I'm going to keep hiccuping and it's annoying and I'm being self-conscious about it. Come for the beer review. Stay for the awkward hiccups. See if I can finish this before the next hiccup. If you had this beer before, are you drinking another pale ale? Do you think this is the world's best pale ale like I do? West Coast Pale Ale, if you want to get specific. Comment section below. Let's have a conversation. Once you're done doing that, make sure you check me out on Instagram and on Tap. It's No Hype Beer Reviews, both of those places. So please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, imbibe. Cheers, everyone.